hopefully you guys are all on here and ready to go, as well as me, because this is going to be an exciting night. This is the first live broadcast of the internet TV show where I'm going to be coming to you live each week to be able to answer your questions. The questions that have been streaming in, whether it's been through Twitter and Facebook or in the store or through my blog, questions on the DVD program or whatever else, wherever else you've been seeing me. But I am extremely honored to be here with you guys tonight. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the program and a little bit about myself. Some of you know me. We met either in the store, your customers here in my store, or you've seen me on Twitter parties, or you've actually heard from me writing. You may not have seen me. Or you watched my DVD recently and you learned how to breastfeed from me. However you learned and however you found me, I'm just glad that you did, because tonight is going to be a pivotal night where we can actually talk about conversations on everything having to do with baby. This is a show about everything baby. Pregnancy, birthing, breastfeeding, cloth diapering, you name it, the questions, you can bring them on, and I am ready to answer them for you. So for those of you who don't know me very well, I'd like to just give you a little bit of my background so that you're going to spend the next hour sitting with me and listening, and I kind of want to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to be doing what I'm doing. So it started about 21 years ago, and it's hard for me to even believe I can say that, but yes, I've been doing this for 21 years. I was an RN, I'm a registered nurse, and I worked as a labor and delivery nurse for 6 years, and I took care of thousands and thousands of moms, and it was an amazing experience through the birthing process, laboring with moms and dads, and being a part of that amazing moment in life that is the birth. And from there, I earned my master's degree and became a certified nurse midwife and opened my own practice. And in my practice, I delivered over 600 babies in that time. What was very unique about that was that I got to really form relationships with people. So I got to see them right through the entire process, from the beginning of their pregnancy towards the end. And so a lot of my ideas and information and knowledge about pregnancy in general and prenatal care came from those years in private practice working as a midwife. And then after all those years, I finally had a baby. And that was about almost 9 years ago that I had my first daughter, Jade. And that was a real eye-opener for me because, as you all know, before you have children, you just don't understand what that's going to be like. And then you come home with your first baby and you realize, wow, I don't know as much as I thought I did. And it seems so important, every decision you make, everything you do, and everyone has a different opinion, wants to share it with you. And I thought, here I was, with all my knowledge, I would know the answers to these questions, and I really didn't. And it was very, very hard. And breastfeeding didn't come as easy as I thought it was going to either. And so it was sort of a life-changing event at that moment. And I decided to retire as a midwife and become a board-certified lactation consultant. I opened a specialty store here in northern New Jersey, and I have a 5,000 square foot store now that is completely dedicated to new parents. We sell everything from breastfeeding products to pregnancy products, and we teach classes here too. So it's a full learning center where moms and dads come in as a full resource when it comes to pregnancy and beyond. So that's a little bit about me, and just, that way you kind of understand that, if you have questions as we go forward in this program, I want you to know that it's not just about breastfeeding. Most of you know me that way because you've either watched my programs, and I am an author. I have 2 programs out on breastfeeding. And it was, one of them is the Simply Breastfeeding DVD program, and the other one is the Breast Pumps and Briefcases, which is an awesome program for moms going back to work. And if you haven't checked that out, I would highly recommend that you do so. Being a mother, probably of all the things that I've done, is the #1 biggest thing in my life. They're my 2 little girls. They're 6 and 8 years old, Jade and Talia. And, I was able to exclusively breastfeed both of them, and probably the biggest accomplishment of my entire life. I talk about that a lot in my live classes and feel so good that I'm able to sit here and feel like I've been able to reach my goals, whatever those personal goals are for you. And I hope that some of the information that I can give you either tonight and as we move forward through the weeks will help you to reach your own personal goals, whatever they may be. And another thing, so much of what I'm about to say, a lot of it is opinion. Some of it's research, some of it's out there. You're going to read different books, you're going to read different opinions. And the best advice I think I can give you as a new parent is to take in all the opinions and then go with what feels right for you. What does, when you're feeling good, when something resonates with you, then you'll know it's right. When you're going against your instincts, that's when it's not going to feel good. But here's a resource for you to be able to go ahead and ask me questions. We're going to be doing a weekly show. Okay, so this show is going to be on every Monday night at 9 o'clock. And what I'd love for you to do is to RSVP beforehand so that, you'll be able to ask me questions. We got some amazing, the questions that came in this weekend just blew my mind. You guys are amazing. Great questions that we're going to follow tonight, and I'm going to be answering quite a bit of them here live on the first episode. And if I don't get to your question tonight, don't be upset, okay? We will get to them probably next week or at another time, but keep submitting because it's very important for me to be able to hear from you, to know what it is that you need to hear about. And I'm trying to pick what is pretty common to everybody and what everybody sort of wants to know. We'll also talk a little bit about things that are going on in the news, things that are going on currently in current events, to make sure that you are getting all the most recent information that's available. All right, so before we even go further, I'm not alone in the room, and I want to introduce you to somebody because he's very important in my life. And just about everything that I don't do it alone. I do it with my partner, Joe. He's my husband. He's my business partner, and I want to introduce him to you because he's here. And when I keep referring and saying, hey, Joe, what's going on over there? People submitting questions. I want you to know who I'm talking about. So, Joe, come over and join me here. This is Joe.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joe. Joe and I teach all of our classes together, and so it just seems appropriate for me to have you all meet who he is because he's the biggest supporter of everything that we do here. So.
Well, first thing I got to do is say hi to Jade and Talia. Just found out on the chat room that
hi guys.
Past their bedtime saying hi to Mommy and Daddy. Love you guys.
Mwah.
And for everybody joining, thank you so much. It's really an honor to serve you. Sherry and I are committed and passionate about not only being parents, obviously, but also helping support other new and expectant parents. So like we do in our local store and learning center, and now we do online, we're here to provide you education, inspiration, tips, motivation, resources, all the above. Use this chat room that we have right here.
Where are we going?
Over here.
Live TV, folks. We'll figure it out.
And, just post your comments, post your questions. If you want to see anything from a dad's perspective, if there are any dads out there, let us know. And I'll be here on the sidelines, handing Sherry a little questions and, chiming in from time to time. So
yeah. It's really amazing because most of you don't know that when we teach the live classes here in the store, we do a full series, and Joe teaches the classes with me, and I think it's the most powerful part of our classes for our clients is that we teach as a couple because we truly believe that parenting is a team sport, and whether that's your husband, your spouse, your partner, or just a support person in your life, you do need support. It's hard to do this alone. So make sure your support person's with you, like mine is right now.
All right. Have fun.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Okay. Awesome. So I want to give a few shout-outs to a couple of the moms who RSVP'd. We got Debbie. Hi, Debbie. And Jennifer and Andrea and Danielle with us. And we got Krista and Melissa, Amy and Erin, and Sandy and Avery. Thank you guys so much. And Kia, if I didn't mention your name, I will get to it later. But just so awesome to see you all out there and submitting some great questions. So, I really, really appreciate it.
33 viewers.
33 viewers. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so what you're going to do each week is you're going to go ahead and you're going to RSVP. I got Emily Dickey from babydickey.com. She's our mom blogger who is supporting us with the entire program. And that's where you're going to go to be able to RSVP. And what that does, it's going to entitle you to ask questions along the way, but also to be able to win the prizes. We're going to have some amazing prizes. We've got great sponsors who are sponsoring the programs each week, and we're going to be giving away some amazing prizes. And then at the end of several weeks, what we're going to do is give away a grand prize. Now, in order to get that grand prize, you are going to have to attend 5 out of the 8 next sessions, okay, and be here with us to win the grand prize at the end, which is going to be a breast pump. So it's a great prize, and I think that you should all try to RSVP and get here. Tonight's sponsor, let me tell you a little bit about them, okay? One of my favorite companies in the world, okay? This is Earth Mama Angel Baby, and I have been not only a customer of Earth Mama Angel Baby, selling it here in my store, I am a client of theirs, I am a friend and buddy of theirs, and you know, I personally use the product. They create the just amazing herbal products that are 100% organic, fragrance-free, cruelty-free, just totally safe for you and for your baby. And beyond all the great things about it, they work. Okay, they totally work when it comes to their nipple butter, when it comes to their bottom sprays and their butt bombs. Let me tell you, it's the best stuff out there, and I personally can endorse it not only from my own personal use, but from all of my clients. So we're going to be giving away some great prizes tonight. What I have for you, and we're going to announce the winners later on in the show, but what we're going to have tonight is we have a breastfeeding support kit. You can see it right here, okay? So someone's going to win this awesome kit. And what I decided to do, in case you're not breastfeeding or you're completed breastfeeding, is I'm going to give you a choice between the breastfeeding kit and the baby kit, okay? So depending on who wins, you'll get to make that choice later on which one you want. That'll be shipped right out to you, okay? So good luck to the winner, whoever that one is tonight, okay? So let's move on. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about some of the questions that came in. You know, there was a real theme to some of the questions that I was getting, and of course I got a lot of breastfeeding conversation going on, a lot of breastfeeding questions, and one of the things that kept coming up was this whole idea of, like, how much is this baby supposed to eat? And if you've watched my program, we talked a lot about, in the beginning, how little the baby eats in the first few days. But we may not have talked enough about how much do they continue to eat as time goes on. Once your milk comes in, how much is enough? You know, am I going to know that I'm making enough milk? And what do I do if I feel like my milk supply is low? You know, it's sometimes a perception issue. You know, and I find that, you know, there are some people with low milk supply, but I find it to be pretty rare. Most of the time what it is mom's perception that she needs to make more milk than she actually does. Not very different than those early days. So I have a question here, and the first question came in from, let's see, who's this from? This is from Krista, and Krista asks, you know, recently I've been pumping and I struggle to get 3 to 4 ounces. When 3 to 4 ounces, I used to be able to get 4 ounces out of each side. What's going on, and how can I fix this? Can it be the pump? I'm a working mom, so it's super important to continue to breastfeed, and I really want to continue. Okay, so awesome question, because this comes up very often, not only in the classes, but also in the store when people come in to visit and for consultations. Let me explain. When you're breastfeeding, a normal breastfed baby will rarely ever eat more than 3 ounces or 3 to 4 ounces total per feeding ever. Okay, so as the months go on, where you think you have to keep creating more and more milk, that's not true. They peak out somewhere around 6 weeks to about 4 ounces, and that's about all they eat per feeding for the rest of the year. Now, I think this may be shocking to some people, because what they're doing is they're comparing it to a formula-fed baby, where you see these big bottles, you know, 8-9 ounce bottles, and you think to yourself, well, how am I ever going to be able to make that much milk? And the answer is you don't. Okay, so where Krista was before pumping 4 ounces from each side, it was actually, she was overproducing and making more. She was making enough for 2 feedings. Now, this may have worked for her early on in the early stages when she was engorged, and in the first beginning weeks of breastfeeding, you will overproduce. But as you get closer, you know, farther along in breastfeeding, your milk supply will drop, but to a normal state where you're feeding and you're pumping or feeding the amount the baby needs to eat. That's when your breasts kind of shrink back to what their size should be, somewhere around 6 weeks. You won't be feeling full anymore. And you really being able to pump 4 ounces, I read that and thought, wow, that's pretty good. Pumping 3 to 4 ounces per feeding. This can only be a problem if you're trying to do too many pumpings in one day. You know, Chris is commenting that she goes back to work and maybe she's trying to get 2 feedings in, 2 pumpings in for each feeding. That would not be a good idea. I would recommend pumping each time the baby eats, and 4 ounces is probably an adequate feeding. You know, I see it all the time that people are overfeeding, and I get a lot of people coming in. Have you noticed how many babies have reflux these days? All these babies on reflux medications, and you know, and I have to say, I think that a lot of it comes from just overfeeding our babies. We need to be very careful. When a baby eats at the breast, they can control the feeding. Okay, and so it's really different than with the bottle. And this is not only important when you're breastfeeding and pumping, but also if you're formula feeding, that you make sure that you don't overfeed. Pumping, when the baby eats, the baby knows how to eat, and they also suck just to suck. So at the breast, they're able to control it. When it comes to breastfeeding, when it comes to bottle feeding, they have a much harder time controlling it. And so if you put 5 ounces in the bottle or 6 ounces in the bottle, yeah, they'll drain the whole thing, and then they'll go into that milk coma, and they'll be out, and you'll say, you see, the baby was still hungry. Not necessarily true. Typically what I tell people to do is watch while you're feeding your baby a bottle. Have your caregivers do this too if you're back to work. Watch the baby drinking from a bottle, and what you will see is that the baby will eat with their eyes wide open, hungry, gulping, and then at some point, somewhere towards the middle of the feeding, you'll see them start to close their eyes, and as they're closing their eyes and eating slowly, that's the point at the breast where they would be switching over to really just sucking. And that's how you know to take the bottle out of the baby's mouth and try burping them and seeing if it's really enough at that point. Otherwise, if you keep going, the baby has a strong sucking reflex and will typically drain the whole thing. That will lead mom to think that she's not making enough, okay? So very, very careful with that. This should come as really good news to all you working moms. It's probably the biggest myth out there is that you have to keep increasing your supply. Breast milk changes. Breast milk changes over time. You know, just, you know, when you're feeding a baby formula, remember that same formula that you're feeding on day 1 is the same stuff that they're getting on at 6 months, at 9 months, at 12 months. Okay, it's the same stuff, so they need to eat more of it. When you're talking about breast milk is changing from feeding to feeding, from day to day, from month to month. And so they really don't need to go up in quantity. In fact, they're going to eat more breast milk in the first 6 months than they do in the second 6 months. And why is that? Because after 6 months, you're going to be introducing solids. And so some of the meals will be replaced with solid baby food, while others will be breastfeeding at the breast. Okay, so this should come as good news to most of you moms out there, that you probably don't need to be making more. And in fact, I've seen a lot of times where people are so oversupplied that they wind up with breast infections from overpumping. So, you know, having too little milk is not good, and having too much milk is also not good, okay? And that you want to just have just enough to feed your baby. So it's a perfect question. It actually leads into some other things. You know, recently Michelle Obama, our First Lady, has come out with you know, the whole idea of the Let's Move campaign and really trying to decrease obesity in our country when it comes to our children. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about how breastfeeding relates to the whole struggle with obesity. And I think this is a really important aspect that we need to be looking at, because instead of trying to fix the problem once it's already occurred, how do we get on top of it? How do we try to prevent it before it ever starts? What I'm seeing is a lot of this overfeeding leads to these problems. One thing that's been really out there lately, and it took me a while to actually locate the chart, but I have it for you, and I'm going to make it as an available download. We need to be measuring our breastfed babies on the right charts, okay? And what I mean by that is when you go into your doctor's office, there are different growth charts, right? And so the growth charts will have, you know, what percentile they fall into, and so many times breastfed babies will struggle because they're not gaining as fast as the pediatrician would like to see them gain. And what's happening is that we're using growth charts that are not based on breastfed babies. Okay, the CDC growth charts, and in some the CDC growth charts, and then in some pediatrician's office, there are even growth charts made by the formula companies. are obviously based on non-exclusively breastfed babies. That's not the biological norm. What you want to be looking for is the 2006 World Health Organization growth charts, okay? And those growth charts are the only ones that are completely based on breastfed babies, exclusively breastfed babies. And that's what we should be keeping as the standard to measure all of our babies against, okay? What you're going to see when you start putting those babies on that chart is that you'll have babies that we consider underweight or not gaining quick enough actually coming within the curve and gaining appropriately, and then other children that we think are normal actually at risk for obesity, where we could start cutting them back a little bit. And I think it's very, very important that you understand the difference, that depending on what chart you're looking at is going to make a difference for where your baby falls into this. You know, it saddens me because I do consultations all the time, and moms will come in, and you know, the main reason why supplementation is started is because the baby's not gaining fast enough, or they're not keeping up with the curve or the chart on the wall, and those charts don't even apply to that baby. So I've made those charts available to you. They seem to be easy to find in kilograms. That's probably because the rest of the world is doing things better than we are. But I needed to find it with pounds, and I found the Canadian charts that actually had pounds on it. So I made those links available to you on my website so that you can download, and I would just make a download of the charts and take them with you to your next pediatrician's visit and just say, could you please use this chart, and see where I am on here too. Another thing to remember is that, you know, the baby doesn't necessarily stay on the chart, okay? Sometimes they're not on the chart. What you have to do is look at your baby individually. If the baby is gaining and the baby's doing well, I next look at the mom and I say, oh, you're a pretty small person too. And sometimes babies are just smaller, okay? And that's okay as long as the baby's hitting the milestones that they need to, as long as they're having the output that they're supposed to be having, the wet diapers, we know they're hydrated, and there's really no emergency, okay? Formula use in a breastfed baby should really be a last resort, and so often, more than not, it tends to be like the first thing that they go to. So you have to be a real advocate for yourself. You know, it leads into a second question here from, this is from Amy, and she asked me, my question has to do with weaning from supplements. Currently, we are mostly breastfeeding, but due to slow weight gain in my first month, my son needed to be supplemented with pumped milk and formula. My question is around how to safely wean from the supplements. Currently, we are giving my son about 5 to 6 ounces a day in the form of supplements, in addition to about 8 feedings, I would assume breastfeedings. My son is 8 weeks old, and as of week 6, his weight gain has gotten back on track. Awesome. Great job, Amy, first of all, by the way, to make it to the 8-week mark, and you're just about exclusively breastfeeding, but we need to get you over the hump now, okay? So what I tell my clients is that if all you're feeding is 1 to 2 feedings a day of formula, then you probably don't need any, okay? Did you understand what I mean by that? What you need to be doing is feeding a little more frequently at this point. Your body will kick in and start to make enough. If that's all you're doing is that 1 feeding or 2 feedings a day, and your baby is gaining adequately, I would start cutting back immediately. All right. Most likely, there wasn't much of a reason to do this in the first place, but even if there was, you've gotten over that point, and your baby has gotten to the weight that we need him to be. It's time to stop the supplementation. It's typically only when I start seeing people that have been supplementing for weeks and weeks with very little breastfeeding, then yes, we have to worry about what's their milk supply like at this time. But for you, Amy, what I would recommend is to stop the supplementation, increase the frequency of your feedings, allow your baby to stay on the breast a little longer, drain the breast, and let the baby guide you right now as to how hungry he is. Treat it as a growth spurt. You know, on my DVD program, I have a whole chapter on growth spurts and what to do during a growth spurt, allowing the baby to nurse as often as they want for 1 or 2 days. Your body will kick in quickly and start to get the message, oh, make more milk. Okay, so why don't you go back, watch the program, and watch the chapter on growth spurts, and treat this just like a growth spurt and cut out that formula, because I think you're done with it at this point. I think that what you need to also understand is that babies should not be weighed weekly. Right? This is huge. When moms and dads ask me, how much should a baby be gaining? How much should a breastfed baby be gaining, every week? The answer to that is, what I think that they should be gaining is somewhere between 4 to 8 ounces per week on average, okay? That's the key point here. On average. That means you're not bringing your baby in every single week for a weigh-in, because what's going to happen, okay? One week you're going to have a weight gain of, say 2 ounces, and you're going to think something's wrong. And then the next week the baby's going to gain 10 ounces because they had a growth spurt. You cannot be weighing your baby every week and monitoring so closely, all right? The best way to monitor that your baby's doing well is to keep watching those wet diapers, keep looking at all the signs that I talk about in my DVD program on how to make sure your baby is getting enough milk, and weighing your baby after a month, okay? So after a month's time, you go back to the pediatrician's office, you weigh the baby, and you divide it by 4 weeks, and you say to yourself, okay, did they gain somewhere between 4 to 8 ounces a week on average? If they did, then you're pretty much in the right spot. And if it's a little bit less, again, they went in the right direction. All babies grow at their own pace. You cannot be too rigid with this. Very, very important. It's too critical for them to keep getting the breast milk. Breast milk is just too important to sacrifice that quickly. Anyway, let's move on, because we do have other questions, and some of these questions actually had nothing to do with breastfeeding, and I was actually happy to see that because I wanted to answer some other questions for you. I have a question here from Laura, and Laura wants to know, she's drinking a lot of water, she's pregnant, and she wants to know how much water is enough to drink during pregnancy to stay hydrated, okay? And she said she's drinking about 8 glasses a day. She wants to know, is that enough? How much water to drink during pregnancy is really an individual thing, and I would say that somewhere between 8 to 12 glasses a day is probably within the normal. Now, you're going to find that certain times of pregnancy you're going to need more water than others, whether it's really hot out, if you're feeling like you did a lot of activity, you may need to increase that amount. And it's so interesting because your body will tell you. It's going to tell you, not just in thirst, but in other signs. So if you're starting to feel signs like headaches or swelling, any type of cramping, you need to make sure that you stay very, very hydrated. The first thing I would do is start drinking more water, okay? And especially sometime in the second trimester. This is a very special time that requires a lot more fluid intake. Somewhere between 24 to 28 weeks of pregnancy, you're going to notice that you might feel a little lightheaded, a little short of breath. You might feel like you have some headaches. Very, very common. And why is this happening? Your body's demand for fluid and water is going up, and you may not be keeping up with that increase. Your body is replenishing amniotic fluid constantly. Okay, so all day long you're replenishing amniotic fluid, and then somewhere in the second trimester, like I just mentioned, your blood volume is going to expand by almost 50%. Okay, that's huge. That's huge. 50% more blood than you normally have in your body. Why do we do this? Well, because during delivery, it's important that you have that extra blood. You're going to lose some blood during delivery, and you want to make sure that you're totally healthy. Nature is so smart, okay? Let's just face it. It takes care of us the way we need it to. So where, where you deliver and you have a blood loss and you get up and walk away as if nothing happened, where the normal person who's not pregnant could not just get up and walk after losing that type of blood, that's why it's so important for your blood volume to expand. But with that expansion, you are going to notice some symptoms, and lots of times that comes in the form of dehydration effects, like headaches, shortness of breath, sometimes some palpitations. This is not to say not to check in with your doctor, but what I would do first is increase your fluid volume. And that usually takes care of everything, okay? So make sure you're drinking enough. It's very hard, especially when you're pregnant, and now you have that baby sitting right there on your bladder, right? You're thinking, oh my God, I'm drinking 10 glasses. She wants me to drink 12. I'm never going to get out of the bathroom. Unfortunately, that is the case, and you will be spending much of your time in the ladies' room, but that's also very good for you to keep emptying your bladder. It's also hard to gulp large quantities of water when you're pregnant because there's just no room for it. So what I recommend is having a water bottle. I carry my water bottle around with me, and drink sips all day long. Drinking a sip from your bottle every 5 minutes is gonna get that water down for you over the course of the day. All right, that's gonna really help, and especially if you're swollen, first thing to do is to start drinking more. All right. So let's see. Do we have any questions coming in? Yes, good questions. Tell me. I want to hear some.
Peeps on the line too.
Yay! Excellent.
Liza from Expecting Models.
Hi, Liza. Yay! So good to see you. Mwah.
Joyful Abode.
Awesome. Heather. Oh my goodness, Heather. Heather is our spokesmodel. We are launching our new loungewear line called Nurture Wear at the ABC show next month in Las Vegas, and Heather is going to be there with us to model our loungewear. I'm so excited. I've been carrying this line. I created it with my mom, and it is just the most comfortable thing you will ever wear, and we've had it here in the store for several years, and now we are finally going to launch it for the first time in Las Vegas next month. And you can actually see it on my website, right? We have a link to show it, but it's something great. It's nursing loungewear that folds down easily, so you can snap it down to nurse and sleep in it and live in it and look good. And nobody looks better in it than Heather, so hi Heather. And you'll love it, just love it. Who else is here with us tonight?
Well, I have some questions.
Yes, questions. Topics? Yeah, give me some topics.
Okay, we have low milk supply.
Low milk supply, okay.
Question about formula.
Okay.
Question about if you freeze breast milk.
Freezing breast milk. Let me have that question about freezing breast milk. Storage of milk, very, very important.
If you freeze it in the early months, is it okay to use later since breast milk changes?
Okay, if you freeze... great question. Okay, the question was about freezing breast milk. So if you freeze it in the early months, is it okay to use later?
That was Mizamami.
Mizamami?
Yep.
Okay, hi Mizamami. Okay, so the answer to that question is this. All right, look. So as I said before, breast milk changes over time, okay? So what you're feeding your baby on day 1 is not the same composition as the milk is at 2 months old, at 3 months old, at 6 months old. So it's not something, and I hear it all the time, people say, well, just pumping enough now so that I could stop feeding at 6 months and just feed all the frozen breast milk after 6 months. That's not the way to do this, right? Because frozen breast milk, in my opinion, is for an emergency stash. It's way better than anything else, so that in an emergency, you need an appendectomy, you need to be under anesthesia, or you have to go out, or you come home from work and you spilled all your milk that you pumped that day. It's a great emergency supply, but what I wouldn't do is use it as a regular source of food for the baby. First of all, the milk does change, so you want to use fresh milk, especially since it's free and it's coming out of your breast and you can use it right now. You want to use fresh milk for your baby, and if you're going to use the frozen milk, make sure that you follow the guidelines as far as freezing. I'll give you some guidelines as far as storage and freezing of breast milk, because you'll hear some conflicting information, but these are the ones that I usually follow. When you pump fresh milk from your breast, it's usually good for up to 8 or 10 hours at room temperature. Breast milk is really stable. I mean, it has antibacterial properties to it. It's very hard to make it go bad. So unlike formula, which needs to be dumped quickly, this is good for 8 to 10 hours. So if you pump in the morning, you don't necessarily have to get right out of bed and run to the refrigerator with it. Once it's in the refrigerator, it's good for up to a week in the refrigerator. So I would avoid freezing it if you're planning to use it within that week. Freezing does kill some of the good properties of the milk, and so you want to try to do as little to it as possible. As little refrigeration or freezing, and as little heating when you're thawing it. But if you're going to use it, it still is better than anything else. So if you're planning to use your milk, you can use it several months later. It can stay in the freezer for up to 3 to 4 months, and then in a deep freezer for up to 6 months. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, good?
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. What else? We got some other questions that had came in earlier that I want to bring to your attention here. Let's see. Oh, Andrea wants to know. Okay, this is a baby question, baby care question. Okay, we're going to change it. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Andrea. Okay, so Andrea wants to know, how can I tell if my baby is cold? Okay, I'm scared to overheat him. We hear so much information about not overheating our babies and the risk for SIDS. And, that's a really valid concern. And actually, when I teach my newborn care class, I tell moms all the time that, it's actually better to keep the baby a little cold rather than letting them get too hot. A really good rule of thumb when you're checking your baby's temperature to see if they're warm or cold is to check their ears. Their ears will either be, when their ears turn bright red and hot, usually means that your baby's a little bit too hot and you want to take a layer off of them. And as we go into the winter months, I would dress your baby appropriate to what you're wearing. Try not to overheat them. They don't need to wear hats in the house. This is something new that, years ago, babies wore hats all the time, and you'll see it in the hospital where they're still wearing hats because they're still regulating their temperature and they lose a lot of heat through the top of their heads. But as they go home, while you're in the house, you do not need to be using hats on them. It can actually increase their temperature too much. I'm a big advocate of swaddling, which we will get to in some later episodes, not tonight, but we will talk a lot about swaddling. And when the question comes up about overheating and swaddling, especially in the summer months or in the warmer climates, what's important to do about that? Remember, the only essential clothing that your baby needs is the diaper, okay? So if you're worried about overheating your baby, really all they need is their diaper and a swaddle, okay? And leave the hat off. Check their nose, check their ears. If they're feeling cold, add an extra blanket on top of them or an extra onesie. And then if they're warm and hot, take something off, okay? Because we don't want to overheat them. Awesome. Great question, Andrea. Thank you. Perfect. What else, Joe? Any other questions coming in there for us? Tell me.
Watch your DVD, but I'm still worried about nipple confusion.
Oh, boy. Nipple confusion. She watched the DVD. What exactly about it? Did she mention what exactly she was worried about there?
I didn't see that, but it's probably just introducing the bottle.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, all right. Look, again, like I said to you when I first started the program, you're going to hear a lot of opinions. And there are a lot of people who have written books, and there's a lot of experts out there, and everybody has their own particular opinion about nipple confusion and when to introduce the bottle. And mine is very different than what you read. I obviously didn't make that up sitting in my home thinking about it to myself. I worked with thousands of moms through the store and through my classes and over the years doing it a certain way. And what I found is that if you follow the program exactly as it's described, and when I'm talking about introducing the bottle after a week, we're only talking about half an ounce of pumped milk one time per day, and then breastfeeding every other feeding during that day, okay? So that means one pumped out half-ounce bottle in the evening, and then finishing actually that feeding at the breast. What I find is that babies typically do not get nipple confusion. I almost have never seen it from doing it that way. I've never seen it. What I do find is that when they follow the instructions of waiting 4 to 6 weeks, and this is, again, just my experience of seeing 30 to 40 moms walking through my doors all day long in the store, that a lot of those babies will never take a bottle. And that may be okay for some moms, and if you're a mom out there and you don't want to give your baby a bottle, it's perfectly fine. And that's really great if you can stay home and you're going to be exclusively breastfeeding. Wonderful. For a lot of moms, they can't do that. They're going back to work. They need to be able to know that they can leave their baby in daycare or with their child care provider, and that baby's going to take a bottle. It's going to be really, really stressful later if your baby will not take a bottle. And, like in my case in particular, my baby was with me. It wasn't just about leaving my baby with a child care provider, but just having that freedom to be able to choose whatever I wanted, to be able to breastfeed when I wanted to be able to pump milk, have Joe feed the baby, be able to go out once in a while, be able to have my mom babysit. That was all really important to me. I really have never seen anybody with nipple confusion with just the half ounce of pump milk. If you're having any breastfeeding, and I say this in the DVD and I'll say it again, at 1 week, if you're having any issues at all with latching your baby to the breast or any kind of breastfeeding issues, that is not the time to start the bottle. Okay, so we put that on hold, and you go find yourself a good lactation consultant, and you have a consultation, and you get breastfeeding going. And then at that point, you can start the bottle again. All right? I hope that answers your question for you. Joyful Abode. Awesome. Yes. That was Joyful Abode who asked that question? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Joyful Abode. Hope that answered it.
Low milk supply question was about a hypoplastic breast.
Okay.
She said she is legitimate.
Yes, yes. Okay. So the low milk supply question is she's talking about, there are some moms who really do have low milk supply. And, this is a real problem for some people. It's a very small percentage of women that do experience this type of thing. But in those cases, what you have to remember is that breast milk is more than just food. And so this is not an all or nothing thing. Okay, and I got this question actually. I have twins who I'm working with right now who are supplementing, and the mom is literally not producing enough to feed both babies. And she's asking me, and she actually emailed me yesterday. She's one of my personal clients, and she said, is this breastfeeding thing even worth it? And my answer to her was yes, 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 because even if she's not able to exclusively breastfeed, the benefits of the breast milk are still incredible for the baby, okay? Even 2 feedings a day is going to give your baby all the antibodies, long-term, short-term health benefits to your baby that your baby needs. And so it's important to continue breastfeeding even if you had to supplement with formula. What I would recommend is that you do your research at that point on what formula you're going to use, okay? And if it was me and I was going to supplement with formula, I would be making sure that first and foremost, the formula that I was using is an organic formula, okay, that it has organic ingredients and that the milk that's being put into it does not have hormones or pesticides or steroids and antibiotics as so much of the formula out there does. And then at the same time, if I was still continuing to provide breast milk at the same time, I would choose a formula that does not have the DHA in it either. And if you want to know a little bit more about that, it's a long conversation, a little bit more than we can discuss tonight. But you can read our 68-page report. Go to cornucopia.org, and the guys will give you the link, because it's a really interesting report that I think you should all be reading about some of the additives that are put into the commercial formulas, and just about every formula on the market has it. There's only one formula that I know of that doesn't carry it, and it's called Nature's One, and doesn't have this DHA in it that I think is pretty harmful for your child. So in that case, if you do need to supplement, my biggest advice would be to continue to breastfeed as much as you can. The benefits are still there, and choose the supplementation wisely. And then also, don't forget, there is also banked milk, okay? This is something that's not that common. We don't talk about that much in this country. But when you look at what the guidelines are from the World Health Organization, formula is really lowest on the list. We really don't hear that much from our pediatricians, but there is banked milk in this country. And so human milk from another mom would be a really viable option. You can look at, you can go ahead and get some resources. Best for Babes actually has some information on their website, and bestforbabes.org, and they can give you information about milk banking and being able to get human milk from another mom, which would also be awesome. The prizes. Should we give away the prizes now? Let's give away the prizes. Yes, right? Are you ready to them? I already showed them the prizes. All right. Well, we're not giving away the prizes yet. Joe's getting very anxious here about giving away prizes, and I'm not doing prizes yet. We're gonna save that for the end. You got to watch the whole program to get to that part, right?
Brooke
all right.
Math has a question.
Who is it? Brooke.
Brooke.
Yes, Brooke.
I'm 13 weeks pregnant and still breastfeeding a 14-month-old.
Okay.
My milk is drying up. I don't want to wean.
Ooh.
How do I increase my supply without harming my pregnancy?
Okay, so how do you increase your supply without harming your pregnancy? There are supplements that you can take to increase milk supply even while you're pregnant. But you might find that you are going to have a decrease. The hormonal shift that naturally occurs with pregnancy may decrease your supply. And as long as you're healthy and you continue to breastfeed, you shouldn't have any problems. But one of the ways that I would increase it, there is a supplement called More Milk 2 that is safe to take during pregnancy. I would consider that, and then using some of the Milkmaid tea. Melinda can actually discuss that with us if that's safe for a pregnancy or not. I'm not actually sure about that. We need to check into that one. We'll talk to Melinda. And if Melinda's on the line, she can let us know about that. But a lot of moms are able to continue to breastfeed while they're pregnant, and it's totally safe. As long as you're not having any bleeding or contractions or cramping, it should be safe to continue going on. Sometimes just getting through the first trimester will help. Those hormones that are very high in the first trimester can sometimes lead to a decreased supply, and then you'll see that it starts to come out a little bit better as you go on through the pregnancy. So I hope that helps for you. Thanks, Brooke. Congratulations. Was that Brooke?
Yes.
Brooke, congratulations on the pregnancy. Awesome. Okay.
2 other questions here.
Yes.
Do you good with yours?
I have a question here that somebody came up with here. Let me answer a question that somebody, that somebody submitted earlier. And the question was about drinking alcohol in pregnancy. Oh, this one always comes up. I teach my live classes monthly, and after 4 hours of a breastfeeding class, I end the class with, do you want to know how to have a drink or a glass of wine? And everybody perks up and they're not ready to leave anymore. They want to hear about it. So let's talk a little bit about alcohol in pregnancy. Is this okay to do? What we found is that it is not unsafe to drink alcohol when you're pregnant. It just depends on how much you're drinking and the timing that you're doing it with. Okay, so the difference here is when you're pregnant, we recommend, obviously the recommendation is no alcohol during pregnancy. Why? Because we have a blood connection with a developing fetus, all right? And there's a continuous blood connection, and we don't know how much alcohol at what time is going to be harmful for that baby. So the recommendation is none at all, okay? Now, once you have the baby and you're breastfeeding, is completely different. Now we're talking about a milk connection, which is an intermittent connection that is not through the blood but through the milk, which is in much lower concentrations, and also with a developed fetus. So my recommendation when you're breastfeeding, if you wanted to have a drink, a glass of wine, one drink, is to do it the closest to the feeding, after the feeding as possible. So what I mean by that is you feed the baby and then you have the drink, because now you've got 2 to 3 hours that are going to go by, and your body will actually metabolize that alcohol and take it out of your milk. So yes, it does go into your breast milk, but then your body will actually clear it out. So there's really no reason to actually pump and dump it out. I hear that too all the time. I had a drink, so I had to pump and dump. You don't need to do that. You just need to wait. If you wait long enough, you are going to clear that alcohol out of the milk, and it's going to be safe to feed your baby again. Now, I did not tell anybody to go out and get bombed and feed your baby. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is if you wanted to have a drink, this is not like a whole year of continuing to have to be pregnant, okay? You can have a drink. And if you do go out to a wedding, or if you feel like you had too many, they sell these little milk strips where you can actually test your breast milk. They work great to take with you to a wedding, especially if you're going to pump at the wedding. Because like I said, the alcohol will clear out of the milk. So if you test your milk and it's not okay, I still wouldn't pump it yet. I'd wait another half an hour and test it again so you can save it, Dumping breast milk, gosh, that was like the worst thing for me. Dumping breast milk is like liquid gold. You do anything you can not to dump it. I told you all in the video, my second baby, I waited 3 weeks to introduce the bottle, and she never took a bottle for me, which was sort of difficult going through the year, and I kept pumping and pumping for weeks thinking eventually she's going to take it, right? So we'll just keep trying different bottles, and then in the end the milk got old and I had to dump out like 20 bottles of milk, and that was a really sad day. I actually had to make Joe do it. I was so depressed. He was the one in the kitchen. I'm like, I just can't do it. I just worked too hard for this. I can't do it. So don't dump your milk, okay? You can test it, or you can wait longer. And if it is still really bad, then obviously you'll dump it. And that's when you'll use your emergency stash, that frozen milk that you stashed up. What else, Joe? Anybody else having any questions out there that we still need to answer for them?
Sure.
Yes.
Liza posted a question about how do you determine the increase of calories for nursing mom?
How do you determine the increase of calories for nursing mom? That came from Liza. Okay. So, are we talking about like how much more does the mom need to eat when she's breastfeeding?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
all right.
There's another question about,
yeah.
Just queued up, about how do you know your baby's getting enough milk?
How do you know your baby's getting enough milk? Okay.
Because the midwife put her on dopamine and
Gotcha. Okay. First, let's address the calorie issue. Okay, so when you're breastfeeding, you're going to be burning an extra 500 calories per day just by breastfeeding, just going out in the milk. That's awesome, okay? That's one of the best benefits of breastfeeding. Okay, that's a long time of like exercise. I say it in my video. It's a long time on the treadmill. So yes, for a lot of moms, they will eat a little bit more and they will be able to burn that extra 500 calories. If you've got some extra baby weight from the pregnancy, you can just eat normal and you will lose your pregnancy weight, usually from breastfeeding. What I wanted to say though is that that's not to say that everyone's going to lose weight from breastfeeding, okay? I just saw these commercials recently, and some of you have seen them too, where they talked about, you know, how breastfeeding helps you lose weight, and it normally does for most people. And then there are some that don't lose weight until they stop breastfeeding, so don't get disappointed, okay? And it won't work if you are increasing your food intake. You know, if you keep eating too much, then obviously you're not going to lose the weight. But having enough nutrition to take care of yourself is what's important. Whether you eat well or not is not going to make the difference of how much milk you make. And that's something that I think I need to make a point of. It was not talked about in my program. And I hear that a lot. Like, you know, I don't have a perfect diet, so I'm not going to breastfeed, okay? That's totally not true. You do not need to have a perfect diet in order to breastfeed. Your body will take whatever it needs from the stores in your body to make your milk perfect, okay? Think about it over time, okay? We have survived, as human beings, we have survived through wars, through famines, through concentration camps. We have gone through so much stress, and times when there was very little food, and yet as a species we have survived, okay? That's because our bodies are smart. That's because it takes care of our babies, and we will make perfect milk every single time. What will suffer is you. So you want to take good care of yourself, because your body will drain all the minerals and vitamins out of your own body, break down your muscle to make the proteins, break down your bones to make the calcium for the milk. And so you want to make sure that you're eating well. Great question, Liza. Thank you. Thank you. And then, the question was about how do I know I'm making enough milk? Let's do this. You know, I'm not going to go over that because I go over it in such detail in my program. And what's today's date, Joe? Is it 20th? Today is September 20th. Okay, so we have 10 days left to be able to watch my Simply Breastfeeding DVD program for free, okay? It's not going to be free as of October 1st. So if you still haven't watched the program, or you know mom who is pregnant right now, or you watched it and you got something out of it, please send them over to watch the program, and you can watch the whole chapter on how you know your baby's getting enough, because I think I go into that in in a lot of detail. So we're going to save that for the program. You go to sherrycreso.com/mybabyexperts, and you'll still be able to download it for another 10 days for free. After that, it won't be free anymore. What else? Any other questions, or is it time for our giveaways?
You got a few more minutes.
Okay, let's go.
My baby bites me, no teeth.
The biting.
But it hurts so bad, I want to quit. Any tips or recommendations?
Oh, biting babies. Okay, so here's my tip. Okay, first of all, this is what I did. You know, they get teeth, and my first baby didn't get teeth till she was about 8 months old, so it wasn't that much of an issue. And then all of a sudden, my second baby at 3 months, she sprung 2 little teeth right here in the front. I thought, oh my God, we're in for it. One of the best things that you could do when your baby bites is to pull them in closer, okay? As you pull them closer to the breast, they have to keep their mouths nice and wide open. It's a little bit harder for them to clamp down. If you're letting them hang off the nipple, you will feel more biting. If they're a little bit older, like in that 7, 8, 9 month range, sometimes just yelling out a little, screaming. I remember screaming once, I couldn't help it. My baby bit me and I just went, woo! And the baby got scared and she never did it again. But when you're dealing with a really small baby like I was at 3 months, holding them closer to the breast opens their mouth wider, okay, and will prevent them from clamping down. So I hope that helps you. Biting can really be an issue for some people, but usually it resolves itself. Most people feed with teeth, so go ahead.
2 more quick ones.
Yeah.
Clarity around the how do you know the baby has enough is more about how does she wean him off the formula.
Okay. How does she wean him off the formula? How old is her baby? Who are we talking to? And is it Amy?
Banana sock muffins.
Banana sock muffins. I love the name. Banana sock muffins. All right. How old is that baby? Are we talking about an older baby?
My midwife made us supplement my son at 3 weeks because
Yes.
my milk was low and
Yes.
put me on domperidone and fenugreek.
Yes.
Now he's 2 months old. How do I know I'm making enough milk, and how do I wean him off the formula?
Okay. All right. So the baby is now 2 months old.
Yes.
and the baby, I see it here. You had actually submitted this, and you said that the baby had only gained 1 ounce in 2 weeks. That goes back to that initial conversation that we were having earlier about weighing the baby too often. The way that I would know that the baby's making enough milk is depending on how much supplementation you're doing, and I can't tell from your questionnaire how much milk you're getting, how much formula you're actually feeding the baby. I would start cutting back bottle by bottle and keep feeding the baby a little bit more frequently. You will know your baby's getting enough.
3 bottles, 4 ounces.
3 bottles, 4 ounces every day, and then the rest all breast milk.
1 sec.
Yeah, waiting for an answer.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I would start cutting those bottles down to, start cutting one of those bottles down once a day, like to 2 bottles a day, and watching the baby's output. Okay, the most important way that you can tell that your baby's getting enough is to watch how many wet diapers the baby is giving you. 6 to 8 wet diapers in a 24-hour period is telling you that the baby is definitely hydrated. Okay, your baby may seem a little hungrier, and what you're going to need is some good, strong soothing techniques to be able to soothe your baby, usually with a pacifier or just at the breast. What I would do is have the baby suck at the breast a little bit more. That's going to help to increase your breast milk as well as the swaddling. Okay, sometimes babies will do better if they're swaddling and just being held. So holding your baby skin to skin, swaddling, wearing your baby in a sling, using a pacifier, cutting 1 bottle out per day. Just cut out a bottle and then several days later start cutting back as you see your milk supply increasing. As long as you don't see a decrease in the wet diapers, I wouldn't be very concerned about it.
Okay. Actually, we'd like you to direct people for their questions for the next
okay,
session.
yes. So we're going to direct question. Oh my God, a whole hour went by already? This is incredible. Okay, so it's quick. This is quick. I want to talk to you just about how to submit your questions for next time, because if you really want your questions answered, the best way to do that is to go to Baby Dickie's website. Do we have a link there that we can put out for everybody? Okay, because it's going to be Emily Dickey from babydickie.com. She's going to put a link. She'll put a link in there for you to go and RSVP so you can submit your questions beforehand so I can review them and we'll have them ready for next Monday night to be able to answer for you. And it'll also make you eligible for the prize. Remember, we're going to do 8 weeks straight and then we'll run it, we'll start over again after 8 weeks. But in the 8 weeks, you need to attend 5 of these parties in RSVP to be eligible for the grand prize at the end, okay? So now I think I'm ready to start the winners, right? Does Emily have winners for us? A winner for the contest here, for the giveaway? We got the breastfeeding kit. The drum roll, please. Dun, 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 dun. Drum roll. We have a winner. I can't get it in the camera. There we go. Okay. This is awesome. You know this breastfeeding kit? Okay, let me tell you what's in here. Okay, we got Milkmaid tea, which is awesome. I used to make iced tea out of this in the summer. It was great. And that's in here. You got Milkmaid tea, booby tubes, which are awesome, heatable and freezable gel-free breast compresses. They're 100% organic and they're great for mastitis and engorgement. Excellent. And then you've also got Bosom Buddies. They're like a soothing compress, organic compresses to relieve discomfort of, again, engorgement or mastitis. And you've got the natural nipple butter, and one of the best products I have in my store, that Earth Mama nipple butter. It works great on your nipples. It works great on pretty much everything. I use it on my cuticles at night too. It works good for that also. Okay. We love saying nipple cream around here. Joe loves to talk about nipple butter. Sometimes I come out into the store and he's having a conversation with another dad saying, here's the nipple cream. And I'm going, wow, that's so cool. Listening to 2 dads talking about nipple cream. Anyway, do we have a winner?
And the winner is?
And the winner is... Come on, yay, who's the winner? Emily, who's the winner?
Really teasing us here.
She's teasing us.
Jennifer M.
Jennifer M. Are you online with us? Jennifer M., you have won the breastfeeding kit from Earth Mama.
Ha-ha, sorry.
Ha-ha, sorry? What does that mean, ha-ha, sorry? Ha-ha, sorry. All right. I'm ready to start using these booby tubes right now myself. I could use some booby tubes lately.
Oh, sorry for being slow.
Sorry for being slow. Okay, Emily,
Okay,
come on.
tell Jennifer M she's got to chime in. So
Jennifer M, if you are online with us, you need to chime in. You need to be here to win your prize. Are you here? Log on. Tell us. Jennifer M. Jennifer M, are you there? Going once. Going twice. Gone. Pick another winner. Somebody else is going to get a chance. She's not answering. Okay, somebody else.
Emily.
This is what happens in live TV. You know, live is just live. You know, and it's not going to be perfect.
Add more drama.
We need drama, right? It's a little drama for tonight.
Oh, a lot of Easy Mommy wants it. Brooke Math.
Come on, who? I'm picking somebody right now. You ready?
Wait, hold on. And there's a question, do we have to RSVP to be eligible? So take a second to explain.
Okay, yeah. So again, with the rules, just because this is our first night, so you guys understand, yes, you need to RSVP to be eligible for the prize. Okay, so you have to go on before, and it can be even an hour before the program starts next week, and you can RSVP. You don't have to submit a question. Just tell us you're going to be here, and you get entered in so that you can win the prize. And you need to RSVP for 5 out of the 8 sessions as we run this 8 sessions at a time, and we're going to replay it every 8 times, every 8 weeks. So you need to go on 5 out of 8 times in order to win the grand prize in the end. I'm picking a winner. Got it?
Elisa?
Was it?
Elisa?
Elisa. Okay, Elisa. Elisa, are you there? Elisa. No Elisa? Did everybody log off?
Well, does she have
anybody
a different
left?
tag name?
Okay.
She's here.
She's here. Yay! Elisa. Okay, great. Okay, so you've got your choice between the breastfeeding kit and the angel baby kit. Which one are you going to want?
Oh, no. No, Aplec is Andrea.
Andrea? Oh, you guys are driving me crazy now. All right. Well, we will find the winner for you guys, and we are going to say...
So we're going to pick... Let's pick Aplec.
Was it?
Elisa isn't here, and for being honest, we're gonna pick Andrea.
Okay. So are we sure now? Are we sure?
Aplec is Andrea.
Andrea, you are the winner. Yay!
Maybe Dickie picks Sandy, so they'll both get one.
Okay, we're giving away two prizes tonight. You're both getting one. So Andrea's getting one, and Sandy's getting one. Congratulations. Good night, everyone. And it was such an amazing, amazing pleasure to be with all of you. And
join us on the Twitter.
If you guys want to follow me on Twitter after the party tonight, I'm going to go on Twitter now. So if you want to get on there with me, what's the hashtag that we're going to use? Right? Let's do a hashtag pound Shari Creso, and then we can all get on there together if we want to talk. All right, you can talk to each other, or we can continue on with the conversation, more questions. All right, have an awesome night. I will see you next week, same time, same place. My Baby Experts. Say goodbye to Joe. Bye, Joe.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.